Congressman Tom Rice of South Carolina, seeking a sixth term in office, made the case during a primary debate last Thursday night about why the country needs accountability when it comes to January 6th. Rice was one of 10 Republicans who voted to impeach then-President Donald Trump following the deadly attack on the U.S. Capitol. That vote has earned him Trump's condemnation and a long list of challengers trying to unseat him. Rice defended his decision and called out the hypocrisy of his own party's leadership.
Democracy is a fragile thing. And the one thing that we have to protect us from tyranny is our Constitution. And our Constitution has to be protected at all costs. Our framers, to protect us against tyranny, set up a separation of powers where the legislature makes laws but can't enforce them. The executive enforces laws but can't make them. And the judiciary decides disputes. And they wanted us, they charged us in the federal papers, each branch with jealously protecting their powers because they knew that men were corrupt. And if they had too much power concentrated in one place, that corruption would overwhelm them. My friends, I was there on January 6th. I wasn't absent. I was there. I saw the bomb squads defusing bombs. I smelled the tear gas. I was on the House floor when the glass was breaking, when they were trying to break down the doors. When we evacuated, I passed Capitol police officers who were beaten and broken and being pulled from the lines. When we got to the spot where we were evacuated, Fox News was on TV. I was getting calls from back here from friends and the news, and as I was talking to the news media back here, I kept saying, "Where's the president? Where's the president? Where's the president?" But he never came on. I knew he was going to come on and say, the violence has got to stop. But he didn't for 4 hours. Later, I asked my staff to pull the records on what he was doing at that time. And he was sitting in his dining room next to the Oval Office, proud that these people would be in sacking the U.S. Capitol, beating up the Capitol police officers. And he did nothing to stop it. In fact, 20 minutes after they were in the Capitol, he tweeted out, "Mike Pence doesn't have courage." My friends, you can argue about whether his speech that morning was incitement or not, but to me, that one tweet was incitement. If they'd have gotten hold of Mike Pence, we could have lost our democracy that day. So if in my opinion is that our Constitution is too precious to risk. And the one difference between me and all those leaders back in Washington who said, "Oh, Donald Trump went too far, he should be impeached, he should be removed," and then voted the other way, I took the principle stand and I defended our Constitution.
There you have it, John Heilman. So Rice, Congressman Tom Rice, voted with Donald Trump almost all the time.
Right.
He was a dyed-in-the-wool Trump supporter and a Republican who voted the way that you would expect him to. He took one vote that Donald Trump didn't like, and that was to impeach him because he led an attack on the United States Capitol. For that, Donald Trump is now in the state. Yep. He's calling Rice a bad person, a fool, a rhino, an atrocious rhino was the term he used about him. And now he's got challengers because he dared to say that what happened on January 6th was bad. Yeah. This will be a good test case.
Good test case.
See who wins.
Got elected in 2012. Wins in that district, 7th district of South Carolina. You got Myrtle Beach, and that's not the Charleston part of the state. You know, he's been making a pretty forceful case for himself. He's not backed down. You got a lot of liberals who like watching his videos on YouTube when he attacks Donald Trump. But it is going to be a good taste. The South Carolina Republican Party censured him. The establishment of Republican politics in South Carolina is against this guy, but he's a guy he basically is like, I do not regret what I did. And I do think this is going to be a question. It's going to be that case, a rational person, a rational Republican who heard that case and said, I like Tom Rice. He's voted the way I liked him since 2013. He's been voting the way I like. Is it Donald Trump personally just going to be able to kill that guy's career or not? I don't know the answer to that question, but it's a big field and it's now a competitive race, and he's hanging on by his fingernails.
Let me answer that for you. Yes, he can. I mean, you look at Mark Sanford, who voted with Donald Trump 95% of the time. Said a couple things that Donald Trump didn't like.
But didn't vote to impeach him, and I think that's going to be the question. That was not in. I agree with you, Joe. It was that was an apostasy you could survive. The question now that we're about to learn the answer to, and I don't know the answer to it, but it's going to be whether this particular thing, voting to impeach Donald Trump, which he's made a litmus test. The president has made a litmus test, and the Republican Party is different in 2022 than it was back when Mark Sanford was winning those elections. So we'll see what happens. I think he can survive, but if he does, it'll be a big signal.
I don't think he will. What's so interesting is, where's the president? He was asking, where's the president?
Yeah.
Kevin was asking, where's the president? Where's the president?
So was Lindsey Graham.
Lindsey Graham, enraged. Where's the president? Where's the president? Members who later said, oh, they were just tourists that day. We're helping the guards to stop the mob from breaking into the chamber, killing people, asking, where's the president? Right. Everybody's asking it. You see, this is the crazy thing. And I know people are like, this is madness. People like this tell the truth, and then they lose in the primaries. But, again, my wife thinks I'm far too optimistic. Maybe I am far too optimistic. I do think January the 6th, even if people still win Republican primaries, will forever keep Donald Trump from ever going to the White House again, because we operate by such small margins in this country that he loses 2-3%. 2-3%. And he never gets there again. Maybe he wins the Republican. If the Republicans are stupid enough to let a guy who lost the White House, the House, and the Senate for them back in, well, all right, well, they just deserve minority status forever. But Eddie, the margins are so small now that you can see. Again, I always go back to this. I'm sorry for saying it again. I love looking at those focus groups that people voted for Biden and Youngkin. They don't have a single nice thing to say about Biden. They all voted for Youngkin. And then the last question is, do you regret your vote for Joe Biden? Nope. Nope. I've never met one person that voted against Donald Trump that says, boy, I sure wish I had that vote back. Even if they hate Joe Biden, they're on to Ron DeSantis or somebody else.